Hey guys, Ronak here today and welcome back to Cities Skylines. We're starting things off with a 15-minute time lapse, so if you wish to skip you now know where to go. Honestly, this episode is just lots of touching up the city and balancing things out. There are a bunch of tiny issues around the city. What you're gonna see in this time lapse is around 20% of the amount of the work done. I spent roughly 10 hours just fixing the city. There were problems with the amount of commercial and industrial zoning across the city. Also, I wasn't utilizing the train lines to their full potential. So what I'm doing right now on screen is building a nature reserve on the island between Emerson and Briar. It was empty for the longest time and was just an eyesore. This island reserve is also a popular pedestrian connection between the two districts. Lots of people are going through the park and traffic's gone down. The park is also a really nice source of income. You see the live gameplay how much of money there's actually in the bank now after all of these changes. It took me quite a while to make the bridges between the islands because I had to find the correct height of the ferries. Then I wanted to make the slopes smooth so the pathways would look good. If we don't smooth out the slopes, the game would make them look very bumpy and it just doesn't look great. Even though I struggled with the bridges for quite a while, in the end I did manage to make everything look presentable. Right now, I'm starting to add details to the nature reserve. I'm adding all the in-game nature reserve assets like tents, campfire sites, lookout towers, fishing cabins, lean-to shelters, and more to flesh out the area and make it look finished. Without all of these things, it just looks very unfinished. So right now I'm building the forestry industry. While I'm doing this in the background, I think it's a good idea to tell you why I haven't uploaded a single episode of the series in the last year and a half. During this time, I did upload videos, even if there were huge gaps between each upload. This hiatus of the series roughly happened with the beginning of the pandemic, and it just made me very demotivated to record City Skylines videos. Also, the quality of the other 4 videos wasn't up to quality standards. It was just basic speeding up of the time lapse and that was just it. I was wasting my time on something that I didn't enjoy and I was just forcing myself to upload these videos. I wasn't happy with the final results. And the pandemic on top of that was just too much for me. So I decided to take a break from the game and started experimenting with other types of videos and also playing other games to just refresh my mind once again. And after 18 months, I now finally have the urge to continue the series once again. Okay, so moving on from that rant, right now I'm redeveloping the industrial side of Briar to be residential because there was a lack of workers issue across the whole city. However, removing all the industry was a big mistake. At one point the save broke because of it. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to record it, but it was mayhem. It was at this point that I realized the removal of the generic industry was a mistake. Instead, I should have decreased the amount of commercial to create an industry demand. I had to, in some way, increase the city's unemployment once again to reverse the damages from the lack of industry. Coming back to the forestry industry, I'm plopping down a couple of large tree plantations to increase the production so I'll be able to add more processing buildings. That way the industry can get to level 5 the fastest. You may have also noticed that I've placed down the household's plastic factory. Its unique factory products can be used by all commercial zoning or be exported for more profit. What I'm doing at the moment is adding another connection to the highway. With this new addition, the trucks don't have to go through that small 2-lane road from the newly redeveloped side of Briar. Overall, I'm expecting now much better traffic flow in the area. I'm building here a simple diamond interchange as it is fast and easy to construct. It can handle a decent amount of traffic and in the end, it does very well. I also tried my best to smooth out the slopes as the area is exceptionally hilly. It's pretty hard to notice in my opinion. So right now I'm trying to level up the university to the maximum level. It had all the requirements to level up except the attractiveness value. It wasn't high enough. So I added a few more statues, fountains and parks to give it that last push. Jumping over to the train station between Murdoch and Emerson opposite the tram depot, I realized that there must be better pedestrian connectivity in the area. With the addition of the pathways on screen, now the stop is more popular. Way more people are walking around the train station, and this way the public transit methods are more appealing to our citizens, thus decreasing the amount of traffic problems that we have. So now I'm once again on the other side of the highway next to the forestry industry. There I built an excellent waterfront complex. Even though it might seem out of place, it's there because it's sponsored by the industrial area itself. All of the workers can live there and also have a beautiful view out into the lake. The addition of pedestrian connections across the highway and a bus service displeases residential traffic going to the forestry industry. That leaves only the trucks on the roads and they can flow through faster. Also, another important thing that I did was keeping my cargo and my passenger train traffic separate. The reason I'm doing this is to keep train jams to a minimum, but that doesn't guarantee perfect train traffic. Personally, I've had cases of train jams occurring even with separated train traffic. It all depends on how robust your road and train networks are. Moving on from the industrial area, I'm now starting to expand the city again due to high residential demands. It's on the other side of the highway close to Murdoch. I'll now be referring to this area as Barlow. The suburb is nothing complicated, it's basic grids. You may have noticed that I don't build in the forest, even though the area isn't that hilly. I use the forest as like a natural border to this section. Also I left empty spaces for parks, which will built soon.
I appreciate the sentiment, but I'm afraid it's nothing more than a daydream.
I hope that the rain will never stop.
Back across the entire city close to the forestry industry in the waterfront complex, there's a large, flat fertile area. I decided that it would be appropriate to build the farming industry there, as it's already close to the other industries nearby. All that I'm doing is just plopping down almost all the farming industry assets. I think I've placed them all actually. And the end result is pretty satisfying to look at. Okay, so I'm back in game and I'm gonna explain all the changes that I did during the time lapse and off camera. First things first, I decided to build the downtown core of this part of the map. I think that it's a great idea to build two cities because originally my plan was to build one giant city, but I don't think that's gonna work out. The next thing that I did was build a connection from the highway that cuts Umbria in half, going through this roundabout above the fishing industry, then going through the heart of the city, staying as an elevated road above the entire Myrtle district, and connecting to the highway between Myrtle and Barlow through this simple diamond intersection. This road is very important to be kept elevated and with very few connections, as it allows for very high amounts of traffic to go between the two highways. The next thing that I did was fix a huge train traffic jam that occurred. I actually have footage recorded of this issue happening, and it created a huge lack of goods across the entire city. I also used the help of the optimized outside connections mod and set the cargo train wait time to 7 times the amount of the regular in-game one to prevent cargo trains that are 7% full. I also disabled dummy traffic because there were lots of vehicles coming into the map and leaving without going to any buildings in the city. That cut down on the active vehicles by 3,000, and if you reach the vehicle limit, the city just breaks. Another thing that I did was make a couple of changes to the public transportation system. First things first, I decided to split the green forestry industry line into two lines, one that services the forestry industry and another that services the farming one. I made this decision because the line was getting too long. A change that I made was building a new train line that services the industrial area. As you can see, I've created this yellow line and it's getting quite a lot of use. I also connected the red and blue train line to this aquatic center in the Emerson Career Institute, and that jumped the train utilization by over 10 times. If you open the districts panel, you'll notice all of these districts that are around the edge of the buildable space. Those are going to be towns, and I'm planning to build one or two of them in every upcoming episode. This cluster of districts in the middle of the map are going to be the biggest city. I'm planning to do another city because the other one is basically done, maybe a couple more redevelopments, and build a couple of areas that I already have in mind. Moving on from that, now we're going to be building the two empty lots that I've planned for parks in Barlow, and I'm going to show you the method that I use to build simple parks in this game. The first thing that I do is build all of the gates. Then I connect all of the gates, and afterwards I place all the park assets. I also use the Parkify mod to place other parks that aren't from the Park Life DLC. The next step is adding a bunch of trees in the park. I use the Forest Brush mod as it allows me to add multiple trees at once with a single click. And that is how I built parks in City Skylines. Then I repeated the same steps for the other park. Okay, now that we are done with the parks, I think it's a great idea to build the town of Concord. As you can see, I've already placed all the pipes, and we're gonna start with placing the road infrastructure. I'm building this town because there's a huge demand for residential housing. Also, the city really needs more uneducated and educated people because there are lots of empty workspaces in the forestry and farming industry that require these type of people. To achieve this, I made sure that the land value in the area isn't good, because if the land value is good, lots of people will level up their homes and smarter people will live. Also, I added the schools out policy, which helps with having more uneducated and educated workers. Right now, I'm adding basic services in the area: a fire station, a clinic, also a police station, and a cemetery. I made sure to not overdo it with the services and parks, as that increases the land value, and higher land value equals better educated people. I'll be back as soon as I zone the entire town. Okay, so I zoned the entire town, and while I'm connecting it to the power grid, I think it's appropriate to leave this episode off here. I spent over 50 hours making it, and a like and a sub would be greatly appreciated. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.